While we get ready for the next season of 5-Minute Biographies, join us for a 10-part special. Over 10 working days, we will present 10 biographies of fictional characters, presented as if those characters were real, just for fun, and I hope you enjoy them. However, before we get into the next episode, I also have some news to share, which is that 5-Minute Biographies is rebranding. After the conclusion of the 10-part special series, we will rebrand to Compact Biographies. We will also be abandoning the seasons format, opting instead for a continuous stream of weekly episodes, potentially expanding to twice weekly. You don't need to do anything to continue listening because we'll use the same feed, so look out for the new branding coming soon. Right, with that being said, let's continue the 10-part special with episode 6, Odysseus. Among the warriors of ancient Greece, none has left a legacy as complex or enduring as Odysseus, king of Ithaca. Soldier, sailor, strategist, and storyteller, he was a man of contradictions, courageous yet cautious, proud yet humble before the gods, cunning yet bound by honor. His journey from war, hero to weary wanderer, and finally to homecoming king, stands as one of the earliest and most human accounts of endurance, intellect, and the longing for peace. Odysseus was born on the rugged island of Ithaca, one of the smaller Ionian isles off the western coast of Greece. His father, Laertes, was a respected ruler descended from Zeus through the line of Archesius, while his mother, Anticlea, was known for her wisdom and piety. Ithaca itself was no great kingdom. Its terrain was rocky and its people humble, yet its isolation bred independence and resilience. From an early age, Odysseus distinguished himself not by brute strength, but by intelligence. Tutors and elders described him as a boy who preferred thought to action, yet when he acted, his decisions carried precision and purpose. He trained in the arts of combat and rhetoric, learning that leadership demanded not only courage, but persuasion. As a young man, he travelled to other Greek states, forging alliances and observing the fractious politics that bound the Achaean world together. It was during these journeys that his gift for diplomacy first became clear, and it would serve him as powerfully as his sword. Odysseus's marriage to Penelope, the daughter of King Icarus of Sparta, became one of the most admired unions of the age. Accounts describe her as both intelligent and steadfast, qualities that matched her husband's character rather than merely adorning it. Together they ruled Ithaca with moderation and wisdom, earning the loyalty of their people through fairness rather than fear. Their son, Telemachus, was born shortly before the fateful events that would draw Odysseus into the most destructive war of the ancient world. It is said that when the call to arms came, Odysseus hesitated, unwilling to leave his young family and his fragile island home. But destiny, once set in motion, cannot be easily denied. Odysseus's involvement in the Trojan War began long before the first spear was thrown. When Paris of Troy took Helen of Sparta, the Greek king swore to restore her to her husband, Menelaus. Odysseus, who had once courted Helen himself, was bound by oath to join the campaign, yet he foresaw the cost, 10 years of slaughter and ruin. At first he sought to avoid the war, feigning madness to escape conscription. When the ruse failed, he accepted his duty, bringing with him 12 ships from Ithaca and its surrounding isles. During the long siege of Troy, his intellect often proved more valuable than any army. He advised Agamemnon, the High King of Mycenae, and acted as an envoy between rival leaders whose pride threatened the Greek alliance. When Achilles refused to fight, it was Odysseus who persuaded him to return to battle. And when diplomacy failed, it was Odysseus who devised the most famous stratagem in history, the wooden horse that brought Troy to ruin. If the war made Odysseus a hero, the voyage home made him a legend. Setting sail for Ithaca with a small fleet, he found his path barred by storms, monsters, and divine wrath. His men, though loyal, often fell victim to greed and disobedience, and each island brought new trials. On the land of the Lotus Eaters, his crew forgot their purpose. On the island of the Cyclopes, they faced the monstrous Polyphemus, whose blinding earned Odysseus both survival and the lasting enmity of the sea god Poseidon. Trapped by the enchantress Circe, he learned that not all power was brute force, and that persuasion, even charm, could be as potent a weapon as any spear. He descended into the underworld seeking counsel from the shade of the prophet Tiresias, who warned him of the perils ahead and the dangers of hubris. At sea, he resisted the songs of the sirens, navigated the deadly straits of Scylla and Charybdis, and watched his shipmates perish one by one. For 10 long years he wandered, a man caught between gods and men, clinging to memory and the promise of home. His survival was due not to divine favour, but to an unbreakable will, a refusal to surrender his identity even when stripped of everything else. When at last Odysseus reached Ithaca's shores, he did so not in triumph, but in secrecy. The gods who had tormented him had at last relented, yet his homecoming was not the simple joy he had imagined. In his absence, suitors had overrun his palace, vying for Penelope's hand and consuming his wealth. Disguised as a beggar, he entered his own hall and saw the depth of the corruption that had taken root. His faithful wife, believing him dead, had delayed remarriage by weaving and unweaving the same shroud night after night for 20 years. His son, Telemachus, had grown into manhood without ever knowing his father's face. When the time came, Odysseus revealed himself, first to his son, then to his wife, and finally to the suitors. What followed was swift and brutal. Justice meted out with the precision of a man who had endured too much deceit to suffer any more. Yet even in vengeance, Odysseus tempered wrath with restraint. He spared those who had shown loyalty, reminding all of Ithaca that a king's power lay not in fear, but in fairness. Accounts of Odysseus's later life vary, but all agree that he found peace elusive. After years defined by conflict and cunning, he struggled to adjust to a world without peril. Some sources suggest he travelled once more to appease Poseidon and fulfill a prophecy that demanded he carry an oar inland until someone mistook it for a winnowing fan, symbolising the end of his seafaring days. Whether or not this journey truly occurred, it reflects a deeper truth, that Odysseus was a man fated always to wander, even when at home. His restless mind, sharpened by experience, could not readily submit to stillness. Yet those who knew him in old age spoke of a gentler wisdom, a man humbled by time, but still guided by reason.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
He died, it is said, as he had lived, with his mind clear, his family beside him, and his name already secure among the immortals of memory. Odysseus's legacy endures because he represented a new kind of hero. Unlike Achilles, who embodied strength, or Hector, who stood for honour, Odysseus triumphed through intellect. His victories were not the result of divine birth or brute power, but of adaptability, wit, and endurance. He was, in many ways, the first truly human hero, one whose flaws made him relatable and whose cunning made him indispensable. Yet his life also serves as a warning. His cunning often bordered on deceit, and his pride sometimes provoked divine punishment. The same qualities that saved him also condemned him to years of wandering. His story is thus not simply one of adventure, but of self-discovery, of a man learning the limits of cleverness and the cost of ambition. Odysseus's influence stretched far beyond Ithaca. In later centuries, he became the archetype for explorers, politicians, and thinkers who prized intellect over impulse. His legacy informed the Greek concept of metis, cunning intelligence, and the belief that wisdom could achieve what brute strength could not. His story also shaped cultural ideals of leadership. Odysseus was not infallible, but he was accountable. He commanded loyalty through empathy as much as authority. For ancient Greeks, his homecoming represented the eternal human struggle to reconcile public duty with private longing. For later generations, he became the embodiment of perseverance, proof that reason, not rage, defines the greatest of men. Odysseus's life stands as a timeless meditation on what it means to be human. He was a soldier who longed for peace, a ruler who valued humility, and a wanderer who never lost faith in the possibility of home. His journey, across seas, through suffering and into legend, reflects the trials faced by every generation that seeks meaning in endurance. He taught that courage is not the absence of fear, but the will to act despite it. That intelligence, tempered by compassion, is the highest virtue, and that even in the darkest storm, the light of home can guide us forward. Odysseus, king of Ithaca, sailor, survivor, and storyteller, remains, after 3 millennia, the truest symbol of the human spirit, clever, flawed, and unbreakable. Thanks for listening to the 5-Minute Biographies podcast from 5minutebiographies.com. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts, or if you would like to support us more directly, why not consider buying us a coffee? Head on over to 5minutebiographies.com/coffee to see how. Also, why not check out our other 5-minute podcasts, which you can find at 5minuteproductions.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.